I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to actually tap into a real sense of security in your being, actual security, because most people believe, they really believe that actually that their security depends on the money in their account and their circumstances. Like, oh, once I have all this stuff figured out, then I can feel secure. And I'm going to tell you in this video why that's not the case and actually how you can feel secure instead, regardless of what's happening in your life. So with that being said, if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell because I do actually post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's actually in the description box of this video to apply for a completely free consultation. I do have extremely limited spots available for coaching right now. So if you do want to work with me one-on-one personally and have an opportunity while you have a chance, be sure to apply as soon as possible. Now, here's what we need to talk about right now. This is such a critical topic because we really believe in society, most people actually believe that their security depends on what is happening in the external world. We really believe that. And we believe that if we just control everything in the external world perfectly with only our logic, that we're going to have that security that we want. But, the irony of it all is that I've personally found in my experience, the more that I overly focus on trying to control the external world out of fear of not being secure, when I've done this in the past, what would happen is that it would put me into scenarios that actually, if you look at what was happening, is there was no safety and there was actually a lot of chaotic energy happening in those kind of energetic spaces when you're too overly logical. But you can actually avoid unsafe situations, or if you don't believe that, at the very least, lower your probability of having any sort of situation like that happen to you and increase the probability of having situations and opportunities and things happen to you that are completely in alignment with what it is that you want to create. But the only way that that's going to happen is if you start to tap in to what it is that you really want to create. But the only way that people can create what they want to create is if it's not coming from a place of I don't feel secure and I need to control my external situation to feel secure. No, never going to happen. The more that you do that, what's going to start to happen to you is that you're going to just be a living self-fulfilling prophecy of why you have to control the external world to feel secure, when in fact there are many people that do not depend their sense of security on the external world. And do you think that it is a coincidence that these people are usually a lot more abundant in their life financially because they know how to regulate their emotional system in a way that actually allows them to feel safe regardless of the challenge and adversity that they're going through? And the truth is that, if you're a business owner, you're always going to be taking some sort of a risk or doing something that's a little bit ballsy or making some sort of a bold move. That's the nature of being an entrepreneur. That's the nature of living that kind of a lifestyle, which is a lifestyle that I've chosen to take it upon myself because I can't get really excited about life in any other way unless I do something like that. I'm just not the type of person to be in the 9-to-5 corporate. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I can't get excited about that. I need to take some, ridiculous risks that are, of course, calculated, and I can make sure that I can make those decisions from a space of knowing my capacity to make those kinds of decisions. Of course, I've learned through experience, okay, if I'm going to take this decision on, I need to ask myself, wait a second, do I have the capacity to take this on and follow through with that? Or am I getting overly committed to something that I can't follow through with because I don't have the right support systems, I don't trust myself? See, I'm not putting myself in those situations anymore because actually I know how to feel secure regardless of what's happening. And I know how to make decisions from that space and trust myself to stay in that space no matter where I'm going, no matter what I'm doing. It's not that I have control over the external world, it's that I have quote-unquote control over where I'm placing my attention regardless of what is happening in the external world. And this is where your true freedom actually lies, not just spiritually, but I believe also materially, which is what I think most people don't talk about, which is that actually when you start to step into a space of inner sovereignty in your consciousness, I really do believe that actually that's going to be reflected in your external world at some point. Maybe not the first day, maybe not the first year, maybe not the first 5 years, maybe not even the first 10 years. But reality is going to catch up to whatever energy you're creating in vortex and magnetism that you're probably owning powerfully watching this video if you're here with me right now. Don't let anybody convince you that, you're not on the right path and that you're not creating what you want and that there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. Stay calm and collected. Everything's happening as it needs to, If you're waiting for some sort of a breakthrough to happen in your life, what you got to start to realize is that actually it's about to happen. Keep waiting for it to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like wait for it to happen. Wait for it to happen. Like wait for the breakthrough to happen. Don't wait like in a negative way. Like just expect it. Expect it to actually be happening right now. Because what most people don't actually realize is that the reason why their breakthrough isn't happening is because they're like waiting too much for it and like worrying about it. And none of this stuff is going to work. None of this stuff is going to work. Because if you really want to start creating what it is that you actually want to be creating, it has to come from that space of I feel grounded regardless of what is happening in the external world. It has to be like that. If it's not, you're just not going to have fun, and you're going to be stuck in your head, and you're going to be stuck in programs, and you're going to be stuck in loops, and you're going to be creating extremely similar experiences over and over and over. That's just what's going to happen. I think it's funny when you realize it, but it's like in that moment, it's not that funny because actually it's very, it's not a fun place to be. But like, if you're in this energy with me here right now, it's like you can laugh at it because you're not focused on it. You're not focused on what it is that is causing you, quote unquote, any problem. You're just not focused on that because you actually realize that you don't need to be focused on that. You don't need to be attached to that. You don't need to be like focused on anything in a way that you don't resonate with, right? Because you're secure either way. Okay, so I've already surrendered to unconditional awareness. I've already got that taken care of. Just focus on what you want now, moment to moment. Create what you want. Learn what you don't like. Oh, actually, that's not resonating for me anymore. Stop doing it. Focus more on what you want instead. And play that game. Play that game. Like why limit yourself to attach to anything? Just keep playing the game, keep testing things. But the most important thing that you'll be prioritizing at that point is understanding that actually your sense of security, once again, is not dependent on whether you're successful or not, whether you manifest the money for your business or not, whether you manifest that thing that you need or not, whether you manifest some sort of thing that you want, or whether it all completely fails and it doesn't happen. You come from that space of inner security, knowing that you're okay no matter what. But you know what the irony is? The irony of it all is that when you come from that space of like you being okay no matter what, no matter what's happening, you're more likely to manifest those things that you actually really care about because you're actually allowing yourself to step into that space of really trusting yourself fully, trusting who you really are, beyond what's happening, beyond your name, beyond your identity, beyond what you call yourself, beyond your past, beyond even your perceived what you believe you want in the future. I'm talking about tapping into such a deep infinite consciousness that you're tapping into things that are timeless, completely timeless. That's not just like information, that's knowledge with the capital K. That's knowledge. That's you connecting to who you really are prior to anything. And the funny thing is that when you trust in that space, some people call it the groundless ground. The groundless ground. When you trust in that space, actually what's happening is that you start to trust yourself in a way that is absolutely insane, because you realize that that's trust that comes deeper than the ego. That's trust that comes deeper than who you believe you are in that moment. Because think about it. If you want to transform it to something else, you have to believe outside of who you believe you are in that moment and the way that you think. Let's say you're a poor person, you want to become an abundant person. You think you're going to have the same thought patterns and the same emotions when you become an abundant person? Absolutely not. You're going to be programmed in a completely different way. Logically, emotionally, probably even going to affect your physical body in a different way because all of it's interconnected and intertwined. The mind and body are actually one. So when you start to become more conscious of this, what you'll start to actually realize is that your thought patterns are going to be completely different once you start stepping into the reality that you really prefer. And the only way that you're going to allow yourself to go through that transformational process is, of course, if you actually know who you are prior to any state. Because all you've done, if you haven't figured it out already, is with the process I've just shared with you, what you did was you transformed from one state to another state. That's transformation. There's one state of consciousness that exists. You shift into another state of consciousness that exists. Whatever that is to you, that's manifestation actually. You don't need to actually create anything. You just need to transform yourself into a different version of yourself that exists already on some plane of consciousness. And by, trusting what you resonate with, so to speak, and what's exciting to you, but maybe it's a little bit scary to you at the same time. But going in that direction of consciousness, even though you don't know what it's going to be necessarily in the process to getting there, you're like, oh, that resonates, I want to go there, but I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm just going to trust myself to make it happen. And you trust yourself and trust yourself and trust yourself. But how are you going to trust yourself through all this? Because you don't even know what the result's going to be necessarily. You have that goal, but you don't know how it's going to feel. You don't know if there's going to be challenges along the way. And you probably tell yourself, you know what, there is going to be challenges along the way. How do you deal with all of that? By understanding that you need to have that sense of security. You don't need to have anything, but you can have that sense of security prior to any situation. How do you think that high-level business owners handle the challenges and adversities? You have to come from a certain place. You have to know how to hold your frame, how to hold your consciousness when these things are happening to you, or happening for you, if you want to see it in that way, whatever way resonates for you to perceive those situations that are seemingly going against what you want to create. You got to reinterpret those in a way. See, even reinterpreting challenges as something that is helping you to go where you want to go. How do you develop that? How do you create that? I'm telling you right now, you have to build the muscle of being aware of who you actually are, noticing that, being who you actually are, embodying it, choosing to make a commitment to yourself that, you know what, I'm not going to settle for less than who I really am. That's the commitment that you have to make to yourself.
Hey, that's just like 2,000.
At the end of the day, you got to realize that you are the power. You know what I mean? You are the power. There's no power outside of you. And I'm not telling you to when I say stuff like that, oh, you are the power. What I'm really pointing you to is the fact that you have an ability to place your attention just as much as I do. Just as much as I have this ability, you have the same ability to redirect your attention to something that's already there, regardless of what's happening in your experience. You have that ability to place your attention on that. And what is it exactly that I'm inviting you to place your attention on? I'm actually inviting you to place your attention on who you really are prior to anything happening to you circumstantially. And then allowing that to guide your life, allowing that to guide your decisions, allowing your connectedness to who you actually are to guide wherever it is that you need to go. Because that's actually what's going to allow you to stay grounded in those situations where, maybe there's some challenge happening to you. And, really, you want to be practicing this always, in my opinion. In my opinion, you should be practicing this, I don't want to say religiously, but I've taken it upon myself, at least right now, at this phase in my life, maybe it'll change, to be committed to focusing on that space, to be committed to coming from that space. I don't care what's happening in the external world, and that might sound crazy. It's of course I care what's happening in the external world. I have to make sure I have food, have to make sure I have water, have to make sure I have my basic necessities and all these kind of things. But you got to realize that, when you're following your soul's journey, and you're following your soul's path, and what it is that you really want to be creating, you got to understand that there's going to be challenges, and it's not going to all happen overnight. It's not going to all happen in one day necessarily. It's not going to all happen in a way that even you understand right now, because it can completely shift, and you have to be aware enough to actually see those opportunities. You have to be aware enough to actually become conscious of those opportunities that perhaps you're not seeing. You actually have to be aware of all those things that perhaps you're not seeing. And once you become aware of this, once you actually start to become aware, you'll start to realize that, like, oh my gosh, all of these things that, like, you notice people doing, that, like, maybe you in the past, like when you were like a younger version of yourself, or like a less mature version of yourself, or maybe you were like jealous or like judging somebody for having something, you're like, oh man, like actually I totally misjudged that person and I shouldn't even have been jealous because actually I wanted that thing on some level. You'll just start to realize, like, oh my gosh, like I had all these opportunities the whole time, and like all these different things, like, you know, seeing opportunities, manifesting things in your life, you know, leveling up, transforming, and all these things, like making money, making the right choice, you know, being decisive, having a groundedness in your being to have coherent thoughts, having a groundedness in your being to be logical, having groundedness in your being to know when it's time to rest, having a groundedness in your being to know when it's time to push a little bit more, when it's time to be more serious, having a groundedness in your being, like, you know, like this is a trust within yourself regardless of any state. Like, this is what I'm trying to communicate here. Like, there's different states you can get. You can get into a more masculine state of consciousness. You can get into a more masculine state. You can get into a more expressive state. You can get into a more comfortable, laid back, quote unquote, I don't like to always express it in this way because people don't really understand it, but a more feminine state. Because like, the reason I like to say these words is because like everybody has like different meanings to words, and like masculine and like feminine. Like what I think masculine energy might not even be what you think it is, and it's like words can be so hard to communicate these messages sometimes. But this is what I'm trying to tell you, is like all these things at the physical plane, at the, you know, at the quote unquote outer level of consciousness, like more apparent level of consciousness, more like physical and dense. These things usually just sort themselves out. In fact, in my experience, 100% of the time, when you come from that space of unconditional awareness, and by unconditional awareness, I'm simply just pointing you to a space that already exists within your field of consciousness right now, whether you're conscious of it or not. And all you have to do is just simply become aware. And what happens is that when you actually start to do this, when you become actually aware, you'll start to notice that surprisingly things don't fall apart. I mean, it might seem like they do. If in your mind might try to tell you that, but again, if you replace your attention back on that space, even when you think it's falling apart, you come back and you're like, wait, nothing's falling apart. Everything's fine. In fact, it's more fine than it's ever been. It's more peaceful than it's ever been. I feel more connected to who I really am than I've ever been. I feel more grounded than I've ever been. And see, in the past, when I convinced myself I had to not be connected to that space for whatever reason, was chaotic, frantic, and I manifested all my fears right in front of me. And so I've taken it upon myself personally. You don't have to live in this way. Once again, you do what resonates for you. I've taken it upon myself personally, at least for me, to make a dedication to come from that space with whatever it is that I'm doing. Because of course, like even Eckhart Tolle talks about this, and I'm not saying that Eckhart Tolle is like some authority figure that has something that you don't have. We all have the same capacity within us to be conscious and to be aware of the infinite potential within us to go what it is that we need to do next in the moment that we truly want. We all have that capacity. But so think about it like this. What he talks about that I really resonate with is the most important moment is the present moment, isn't it? What's more important than this moment now? Seriously, like what is more important than the choice that you're making in this moment now? And it's funny because we have a fear of like, oh, what if I make a choice in the future that leads to this and then everything's going to go wrong? But it's like, usually we lose our connectedness to the now. We get stuck in our heads when we have those fears. But actually, instead, you could be connected to the now and then just make a choice boldly and fearlessly, and then deal with what you have to do the next moment now, and then do that again now, and then do it again now, and just keep doing with what you have to do now. And then before you know it, you have like a successful business built up or something, you know? And it's like all of it happened pretty effortlessly. I'm not going to say effortlessly like in the sense that you didn't put in effort, but effortlessly in the sense that like you allowed it to arise as a natural sort of result of what your true heart's desire is in that inner space of consciousness, that inner space of awareness. That inner space of awareness, you know, that's something you'll never lose. That's what I always want people to remember, is that, you know, you'll lose things in life. You'll lose money, you'll lose relationships, you'll make money and you'll make relationships, you'll make new ones. And things will come and things will go. You'll get one thing, you'll lose another thing, and you're going to have all these different things happening in your life. Your emotions are going to change, your thoughts are going to change, your living situation is going to change. Everything's going to change. What's one thing that doesn't change? Who you really are. That never changes. That's permanent. And that's something you have access to actually in any moment. But the question is, are you rooted in that? Are you rooted in that? And you can actually root in that. It's like, well, Francis, like, what are you asking me to root in if you're saying that it's no thing? Like, there's nothing to root into. Like, it's not going to change my state, as you say. It's not about controlling states. But that's the thing, though, is like, it's a really paradoxical situation here, because like, I've noticed in my experience that when I actually root in that no thing, unconditional awareness, the observer, groundless ground, consciousness, God, whatever word, the universe, just to focus on that inner space, to focus on my inner space, presence. The word doesn't matter. Okay, you know, like, that's what I'm trying to tell you here. I'm not interested in like words here. I'm not interested in dogma. I'm not interested in like attaching to right or wrong. I am pointing to something deeper than right or wrong, where you can find your right from that space. I'm pointing to something much deeper than right or wrong. I'm actually pointing to something so much deeper than that. And I hope you're seeing what I'm telling you here, because, you know, if you're not, then, you know, watch this video 5 more times until you get it. Because, you know, I mean, or like, do what you have to do. Just contemplate it or whatever. You know, find your way. But I'm here to just point you to that space. That's my role here right now in this moment. As I'm pointing you to that space, and that space actually is where true security lies. Once again, if we go full circle to what we were talking about earlier, you know that, and it's like, again, I really want to communicate. Like, you'd be really surprised how, you know, perfectly things actually flow, where you always have what you need at the right time when you come from that space of trusting yourself. You'd be very surprised, but you have to actually see it in that way. Because your ego can come back in and say, nope, things are not going the way they need to go. I need to go out there and control the external world and all this stuff. It's like, oh, I need to suffer, and I need to like lower my energy, and I need to lower this. I need to lower. It's like, no, you don't have to do any of that. All of that is just a sham. It's a story you've told yourself, and it's not the truth of existence whatsoever. It's a sham. It's not real. It's a lies. It's a lie you told yourself so that you can explore what it's like to go there, and then realize that you don't have to lie to yourself, and then expand your consciousness and get your power back. That's what's happening here. You know, that's the real truth, is that you're remembering that you were the power the entire time, and that actually you don't need to feel insecure because you're already secure. And then from that place of security, you just go manifest what you want and focus on what you want to create, and then just keep doing that for infinity, and just keep moving forward with your consciousness and your energy, doing what it wants to do next, what it wants to shift into, tune into. You know, that's what's happening here. That's what's happening. Like, are you conscious of that? Like, that's God. That's the universe. It's just consciousness tuning into what it resonates with moment to moment. That's it. And it all exists for you depending on what you want to focus on. And you have a much higher probability of manifesting your preference, I've noticed, when you come from that space of unconditional awareness, not attaching to one state over one other state. You know, you have to come from that space of not seeing one state as greater than another state, because it's all just different states. There's more quote-unquote spiritual states, concentrated states. Like, you know, if you're like doing a meditation with like, you know, theta waves or something, yeah, for sure, you're going to be in a different state of consciousness. Absolutely. Now, there's 2 conversations here. Number 1, how are you going to let yourself go into that theta wave state of consciousness? You think that's just going to happen without a groundedness and rootedness in your being? No, it's not. It's not going to happen. If you're all stuck up in your head and your life force energy is, you know, trapped away in your mind and you have no groundedness, you're never even going to be able to get into a theta wave state of consciousness or whatever. And even if you do on accident, you're not going to be able to sustain that in your being. You're just going to like figure out how to, you know, not take it back with you into a grounded state of who you really are. You're going to figure out, it's going to just feel like fantasy to you. It's not going to feel real. So the key here is to really be rooted in who you really are. To be rooted in the truth of existence, and then allow that space to guide you always with whatever you have to do in moment to moment. You know, and it's the most solid advice I've ever followed for myself personally, is do what I need to do moment to moment. And I trust myself to do what I need to do moment to moment. How did I develop that? By connecting to something deeper than what is seemingly happening in the circumstances, and being rooted in that regardless of what's happening. That's honestly, like, that's the secret. That's the secret right there, you know? Like, if you want to figure out the secret to life, come from that space and make sure everything you do is coming from a space of being rooted in who you are. If you really take that on, like, there's not going to be many problems happening to you. You're not going to be complaining. You're not going to complain about anything. You're going to just be living what you want to create, and you'll be just focused on that. And then from that space, you'll just be continually manifesting, you know, whatever it is that you really want. That's what you're going to be doing. And the most important thing is just to make sure that that's what you're rooted in at all times, and you'll have it figured out. You know, and this is going to affect you physically. This is going to affect you emotionally. This is going to change your physical reality, you know? Like, that's one thing that I want to communicate as well, is like, keep in mind, you're going to experience a lot of physical changes. It's going to change you a lot. It's going to transform you a lot more than you think. You know, like, you're going to be less reactive around people. You're going to feel more grounded. You're going to feel more present. You're going to feel more aware. You're going to feel more, quote unquote, in control. But except you're not doing it. It's like kind of something flowing through you. And it's because you've actually taken responsibility for what it is that you do have control over from that space. And you've surrendered yourself completely to what you do not have control over and what you have no place controlling. You've humbled yourself to what you know you have the capacity to do. And actually, from that space, the irony of it all is that that's when you're in your true power. That's when you're in your true fire. That's fiery energy. When you're truly connected to who you are, is when you've taken responsibility for what you can control, and you've let go of what you cannot control. Now, what do you have control over? Let's talk about it. Do you have control over people? No, you don't. You have influence over people. You can influence people powerfully, very powerfully. You can be incredibly persuasive. You can really influence a person and really help a person positively with your energy if you know how to direct it in that way. You can do that. Can you control them and how they respond to that? No. And how do you develop that kind of influence? Well, it's not going to happen without rootedness in your being, I'll tell you that. It's not going to happen without rootedness in who you really are, I'll tell you that. It's not going to happen from a space of attaching to one state, I'll tell you that. So, you know, I think people need to take that message more seriously, because, you know, I record these videos all the time, and, you know, maybe you get it, maybe you don't get it, I don't know, but, you know, I see it, and I want people to see it. That's the place that I'm coming from. I'm not here to be an authority figure. I'm not here to be something that I'm not. I'm saying I've seen something, and I want you to see it too. And if you already see it, then epic. Let's be in this epic vortex together. And make sure you stay subscribed to my channel through all of it. And, you know, that's what we need to start to do. Is we need to start to connect back to who we really are, regardless of the circumstances, and trust that what's going to happen is that things will actually very, not surprisingly, at least for me anymore, work out in a way that is totally in alignment with what it is that you really want to create. And you'll just see it all unfolding, and you'll have full control over your life. Yet you've naturally allowed that to happen from a space of trusting yourself. So, you know, just to conclude this video, I just want to remind you that actually you have the ability to master your reality by actually mastering your attention, how rooted you are in who you really are, and then from that space being able to navigate consciousness in a much more powerful way, where you have control over which spaces you step into and how much you open your energy and all that. And remember that, just know that you have that power. And with that, I conclude this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. It's also going to be in the comments of this video as well. Also, leave a comment down below if this video was supportive for you in any way. I read every single comment, and I would love to hear what you have to say. Also, please hit the like button for me so that my people can get access to this content, because I do believe that actually every single person on this planet does deserve to know that they are divine creators of their reality, and that actually they can manifest their reality and do so in the most effortless and easeful way possible, helping themselves and helping others in the process as well. And hitting that like button does help the YouTube algorithm push the videos out to more people, and that would be greatly appreciated. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.